In the meantime, in the brand new issue of Bloomberg Businessweek, a team of reporters take a deep dive look at Tesla's production of the Model 3 in all of its grit and glory. Of those reporters, Randall spoke with 20 top designers and engineers, including CEO Elon Musk. And Tom joins us now. So Tom, your story really recounts the last few weeks of the second quarter when Tesla cranked out 5,000 Model 3 sedans in a week. It was a really crazy time for the company, for Elon Musk. It gives you a new understanding of how Elon Musk kind of lost it on that earnings conference call.
Yeah, he's had a rough couple of months. He described this process as a production hell, and the last 2 months he described as some of the worst of his life. What we decided to do for Businessweek is to kind of marshal our forces to tell the story of the Model 3 and all of its kind of grit and glory. And, this is such a polarizing company. There is so much at stake here. On the one hand, you see them doing these crazy moves. They're spending a lot of cash. On the other hand, if they accomplish what they're setting out to do, they could be one of the biggest companies in the world, and bigger than that, they could change the world. And what we really saw after taking a really deep look at this company is that this is a company that is struggling and attempting to grow up. And that we saw that across all different parts of the company. I think where that's most explicitly obvious is what they did with automation. So this goes back to early 2016. Do you remember when they launched the car for the first time? And internally, they had all taken bets on how many people would place these like $1,000 reservations, right? And the very highest, most outlandish bet within the company was like 200,000. And when the final tallies came in, it was twice that. And that just transformed what was happening inside the company. Elon wanted to increase, their time frame when they were going to produce this, and he also made some decisions in how the company was managed, including he put the people who designed the car, these engineers who work on designing the car, he put them in charge of designing the processes that build the car. It's a really unusual thing, and that's when he started talking about the machine that builds the machine, right? So you have this unusual circumstance when you have, for example, the person who designed the chassis, the underside of the car, responsible for the handling of the car, and who's also designing the machine that calibrates and builds the chassis. And
well, on some level, that would seem to make sense, right? I mean, it was really fascinating for me to read your story. I'm not sort of a gearhead traditionally, but I found it really interesting listening to reading about the designers of the car and how excited they were to sort of come up with different innovations within the car, and then also the machines to make those innovations. But in some ways, Tesla was starting over as if no one has ever been in the car business before. Exactly.
And when I talked to Elon, I brought that up. I said, Elon, Detroit is telling you, they're screaming at you, this will not work. This has been tried before, this will not work. And he said, look, Detroit has told me this won't work for the last 15 years. He said, if I listened to Detroit, we would not be anywhere near where we are today. And he said we were idiots, and he said our design engineers were naive about the manufacturing process. It was a full mea culpa about that. But he also said it was a dumb decision that they had to make for themselves and learn from themselves. And I think that's kind of symbolic of their whole kind of mood at the company right now is we've made some mistakes, and we're trying to now grow up and be a little bit more mature about how we approach things like automation. And the problem was that they had this crazy idea for automation for the factory. It was almost like a moving warehouse of parts, right? So you have all of the parts going in on this crazy conveyor system, and then they had 500 robots that would lift parts up onto a second level where they were building the car, and then robots would piece the car together. And the problem is the best thing to pick up parts on the planet are these things. They've been developed over billions of years, and robots are imperfect at grabbing small parts. And so when they have 5,000 different processes to build this car, and so even if all of your machines are working at 99% accurate, right? Those 1% add up and stop the line.
All right, Tom, thank you so much. And there is lots more in the story. We've only just scratched the surface. So please, everyone, go to Bloomberg.com, go to the story on the Bloomberg terminal, and read the full story, including not just the aspirations at Tesla, but the costs of this process, both financial and human. Really great story.